Well, good morning.
Morning, Scott.
Okay. Well, Karen explained to you everything that we're up to, and she told you about how she kind of dragged me into the world of blogging. It's one of those things that I've been hearing about for a long time, and she's really one that kept pushing me to get into this because she felt that it would be a perfect extension for what I had already been doing on my static website. And my static website follows and tracks a monthly column that I've been writing and illustrating for a Corvette publication since 1997. So since I write these column pieces every month, she kept saying to me, you should just start writing your own blog posts about the Corvette hobby. When she put the blog site together, are we still there? Hello?
Yeah, we're still here.
Okay, good. When she put the blog together for me, in the beginning, I would write a story and send it to her in an email, and then she, along with some images, and then she would stitch the actual blog post together. And we did that for about a year or so. And then in the beginning of 2011, I started to get a little more involved, but I was only putting a post on maybe every 4 to 5 or 6 weeks because I had a lot of other projects that I was working on. Then last May, after we got done a big Corvette show, I just sort of, I was thinking about the whole enterprise, and I thought I should just go ahead and really get involved in this. So we sat down one day, and she showed me how to, go on the back end of the WordPress admin page and put together these pages. So in the beginning, last May, I was putting on maybe 2 posts a week and then 3 posts a week. And the CorvetteReport.com started to get a little more traction. And, probably if it wasn't for StatPress, the built-in tool that you can go into the admin section of your WordPress site and find out. So is anybody looking at this stuff? What kind of page views are we getting? What kind of search terms? If it wasn't for that to give you the kind of feedback, I probably wouldn't have pursued this. But as I continued to put more and more posts on CorvetteReport.com and started to see that, well, I'm developing a following here. I mean, poor people are starting to tune into this thing, and it just inspired me to want to write more. So by about June, I decided I really want to see how much I can push this thing. So I just made a personal commitment to put a post up. I was going for every day. So from about the beginning of June all the way through into September, October, I was doing 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 posts a week, depending on what I was able to do. Somewhere around August, we had a phone call one day from the man who we have our hosting service with, who also helps us out with website projects. And Bob Brown said, what are you guys doing with this Corvette Report thing? Have you looked at your stats lately? You guys are getting like 300 visitors a day. You should start thinking about offering an advertising package. So that planted the seed for us, and it got me more excited about doing this. And as I continued to put posts up every day, the numbers started to get higher. When our friend Bob initially made that comment about the amount of traffic that we had, some days we were close to 300, a little bit over, a little bit under. But as I kept going on this, then before I knew it, I was consistently getting over 300 people a day, and then it was closer to 400, and now it's closer to 500, 600. Occasionally we get lucky, and somebody will glom a hold of one of our posts, put it on a very active forum, and then we check our stats one time, and then you're over 1,000 or what have you, because somebody picked up your post. So Karen and I talk about this stuff just about all the time, and one of the things that occurred to me was that we were not getting the kind of traffic numbers that we are getting now before, when I was hardly involved in it. And it made me realize that this is just a numbers game. Because when somebody in the Corvette world or any particular interest group gets an idea about something, the first thing that they do is they go to some kind of a search engine. Most of the time it's Google. They don't necessarily go to their social media outlets. They go to Google. You Google it. And when I was researching my stories for the Corvette paper magazine, I use Google, and I started to notice, like, gosh, here's my posts. So I'm doing research on Google, and I'm finding some of my own posts and my own images. Um, so that's what really underscored for me the understanding that this is really a numbers game. So things didn't really start to pop until we had about 100 or so posts online. Now we're up to almost 250, and it just goes on from there. And one of the things that I pointed out to Karen that I think is so cool about this is that for a little bit of time, maybe between 2 and 3 hours that it takes me to create a fully featured post, I put that up online. Every one of these posts is an investment because they live on forever. I mean, as long as we still have CorvetteReport.com and it's live and everything is on a server, the articles that I wrote 2.5 years ago are still accessible, and every so often I am just totally floored and delighted when I will get a response from someone on a post that I put up maybe 2 or more years ago, and that really shows me that that this is a numbers game. And if you just keep putting enough posts on there for whatever your topic happens to be, eventually you'll start to float closer and closer to the top of those search engine rankings, which, of course, is where everybody wants to be. And that's been sort of like a short version of my blogging experience. It's been quite a surprise, and I've met a lot of very interesting people.
Excellent.
Any questions from anyone?
Yeah, I've got a few, and anybody else who wants to chime in here, it's definitely an open line.
I've got one. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Kerry.
Yeah. So my question is, do you own a Corvette?
I haven't owned a Corvette in a long time, but I've stayed with the hobby since I was about 10 years old.
Uh-huh.
I'm working on it.
Oh, okay. Just curious because one would think that with that sort of success and having the car give you that kind of success, you would also be an owner. Just a curiosity on my part.
Mm-hmm. Kerry, you had a Corvette, right?
I have one. Have had one for many years, and don't intend to ever be without one.
Good for you.
Nice. Okay, yeah, we've got a couple of veteran bloggers here, and I know at least Fred. Fred, have you ever had a blog?
No, I have not. So I'm learning a lot here. This is very interesting.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, any questions that anybody has? I've definitely got a few here myself, but let everybody else go first.
Yeah, more to the topic here. I have actually 2 blogs, and one of them I've been running for quite some time, probably at least 2 years, maybe a little longer. And last month I had over 16,000 page views. I don't remember how many individual IPs, but and I've got maybe 156 or 7 blog posts, and for some time I did what you were talking about 2 or 3 times a week, and I've got other things to do, and so I kind of drifted off a little bit and not posted quite so much, but the page views continued to be pretty high. I suspect that if I put the kind of effort in you're talking about, or even not quite as much, I could really catapult this thing quite a bit. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, one of the things that I was doing over the Christmas holiday season, we also have an eBay store, and we sell a lot of my Corvette art prints through our static website, as well as the eBay store and the National Corvette Museum. We had a lot of stuff to pack, or I had a lot of prints to pack up and get out the door. So as as we were working our way through December, there were some days there where I just didn't have time to do the posting like I wanted. So what I was doing instead was, by about that time, I had a little over 200 posts sort of in my library. And Karen set up my computer with a really cool tool called Hootsuite. And Hootsuite is a standalone website, and they offer this very interesting service where you can have a tool installed on the toolbar of your browser that such that if you're on a web page and it's something that you're kind of interested in, you can click on your Hootsuite toolbar icon, and it opens up a small window. And what this thing does is it scoops up the URL of the page that you happen to be on, and then you can link that URL with a very brief, almost like a Twitter kind of a message, and then sort of burp this thing out to everybody in your interest groups, whether it be through LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook. So on days when I didn't quite have the time to put into creating a new post, because it is a process, and it generally takes me about 2 hours or so just to get these things stitched together. On the days when I didn't have time to do that, I would go back to an older post and then do some Hootsuiting on these older stories, just to keep tickling the list, because people who had joined my list maybe in the last few weeks weren't tuned into what I was doing, a year or two ago. So to them, the stories from a year or so or more ago are totally new and fresh. So on days when I don't have the time to do a post, I will go in and pick out a couple of stories and then Hootsuite them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. I've got another blog that haven't had for nearly as long. It's only since the beginning of last November, I think, and but I've had very good success with it. I've had 18 posts and page views for last page views for last month were over 6,300, up from 3,700 the previous month, and this is I think part of the reason why this is moving faster than the other one is because this is more consumer oriented and the other was more business to business. Mm-hmm. So my question really is back to the advertising issue. At what point and what did you guys do? How did you find advertisers?
Well, it occurred to us sometime last summer when we were doing some consulting work with someone who had put together a nice looking blog and launched it, and she was immediately trying to get people to advertise, but she just didn't have any kind of traffic yet. She wasn't, and she just launched this thing, and she had maybe 4 or 5 blog posts, and she was trying to use this as a medium to sell advertising. And when I really looked at what she was doing, it occurred to me that she's kind of using the magazine model, but in the wrong direction. Like I'm sure most of you get these freebie regional magazines. We live in New Jersey, so we get a couple of them. One's called South Jersey Magazine, another one's SJ Magazine. And having been in the magazine business as a contributing writer and artist for a long time, I know that if you want to create a magazine, well, you pony up a lot of money to have your magazine laid out or and then printed and then plugged into some kind of distribution system. But at that point, you can then say, well, we're distributing, say, 500,000 magazines to our county. And that's the basis for your advertising package, that if you advertise with us, your advertisement will be viewed by this many people. But when you're running a blog or a blog magazine, it's kind of like building a magazine in reverse, in that you really can't start to offer advertising until you've got a sufficient amount of traffic in your specialty area. So we just kept plugging away at this Corvette adventure until we started getting in the area of about 500 visitors a day, and sometimes it spikes and it's been a lot higher than that. Sometimes it's been a little bit lower. But we're just about ready to roll out this advertising blogging offer to the Corvette retail people. And that's where we are with that project. But we had to. It's like priming the pump. You've got to get this thing running and up to speed with a sufficient amount of visitors, page views, and traffic before you can start to offer some kind of advertising package, be it banner ads or creating posts that are geared towards your advertising client's enterprise.
If you could you give us any details you can about what you're offering?
Well, what we're doing is something that I think is a little bit different because we poked around at a lot of the Corvette and car websites and magazine type web blogs, and we noticed that they're primarily offering banner advertising and placements of their banners here and there. And I know from my own experience of going on to the car blogs, after I get used to these things, they almost become wallpaper, and I don't even really look at them. In the past, we have placed ads in paper magazines that the ads showed up in the front and the back, and we hardly would ever get any kind of results from our advertising. But if a magazine picked up and ran one of our press releases that showed up usually in the front of the magazine in these sections they call new gear or new stuff, we would get a very nice amount of inquiries or traffic or sales. And it just led me to the conclusion that I don't think anybody pays attention to these advertisements that I paid money for. But, they read the stuff that's kind of sort of editorial that gets placed into these new gear or new stuff sections. So with that in mind, what we're going to be offering will be specifically written blog posts that will be very comprehensive, have lots of features, lots of photos, slideshows, YouTube videos if the customer has them, opinion polls, etc. And these posts will be specifically and custom written by me about whatever it is that they happen to do. Maybe it's an interview with them, or it's highlighting a project car or a special offer, something that comes across that will be presented in an editorial fashion rather than just strictly button and banner ads. So the real meat of this thing will be the fact that once their posts are on our server, they stay there forever, just like all the rest of our posts. So if someone signs up for, say, a 6-month package where once a month or twice a month I'm creating dedicated posts for them, and at the end of the 6 months, for whatever reason they decide that, well, we want to take a break, or we're going to be off doing car shows or whatever, so we're taking a break. Unlike paid print advertising, where once the magazine is a few months old, nobody looks at it anymore. It's gone. Unlike that, when a post is created and is parked in our server and is accessible through the little search tool on our post, their advertising editorial piece essentially lasts forever. It ends up being indexed and it's searchable, and I have no doubt that just like there are many times where we suddenly get a lot of interest in a post that's maybe a year or two old, the same thing will happen to their editorial/advertising post that we put up for them. In addition to the editorial post, we're also going to be offering them the button ads and the banner ads and a few other little goodies to keep their posts up front. And the other thing that we will be offering them is that every 3 days, 10 times per month, we'll be using that Hootsuite tool and broadcasting out to our list with Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn that are connected to the Corvette groups, so that 10 times throughout the month, their post will be broadcast out to the people who are in our list. So I think it's a different approach to generating revenue with a blog that sort of comes at it from an editorial perspective, instead of trying to say, well, we're offering banner ads, and if you buy a spot up here in the top right corner, it's this much, but if you buy the little tiny spot down here on the bottom, that's the cheap seats that nobody's going to pay any attention to. What we're going to be giving them will be high quality, high content, searchable, SEO option, everything that we can think of to put into their posts. And that will be the piece that will get them attention for whatever it is that they're doing.
Scott,
and we'll also allow them, if they have a webmaster, that they can put the posts that I create on their own website. So in other words, what they pay for, they kind of get to keep.
I have my name's also Carrie. We're a very coordinated group, so we have
got a couple of carries on here.
We all share, and it keeps us all guessing. But anyway, I'm also Carrie, and one idea that I've had that I would be interested in your opinion on is when I did sold advertising for a community newspaper, because I'm a journalist, but I sold ads, and I would have companies like Bank of America buy a space, and in a physical newspaper, it was like a quarter-page ad, or an eighth of it a page or whatever, and but instead of advertising for business, they would do a short profile, business profile, where they write about. They would hire me for their advertising dollars. They would get a short article that would profile a business owner, because business owners are what banks were looking for. And excuse me. And so, and you can put, I've been thinking about doing that, selling advertising, and offering, it's the combination of editorial and advertising that you were just mentioning with a little bit of a twist. You could have a short profile, for example, of some company could have you write about one of their big customers, their favorite customers or something, and write a little bit about the person and his background and his passion. So that way the company is promoting one of their favorite people, one of their customers. And so it puts a spotlight on people, and then that customer would be, if you're doing it online, they could, brag to their friends, show off to their friends about how they were being featured in this on this post, on this website, which would help increase the traffic. I'm sorry?
Hey, Barb?
Mm-hmm.
We're getting a fair bit of noise coming from your side there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had us all muted.
Oh, no, it's all open. So anyways, just...
Apologize.
No worries.
Me now.
Okay.
So anyway, I think
Gary.
there's some lessons that we can learn from traditional media and apply and to liven up and to bring in viewers and readers from sources and have the company, the advertiser, promote their community spirit, their customer support, priorities, and all of those things. So that's one thing that I was thinking about that might be interesting. And since you mentioned the combination of editorial and advertising, that's one idea that I thought might apply to a certain kind of, So, for example, somebody who uses Corvettes is going to have a passion, and they like feeling like they're part of a community. So you could be building that sense of community among users and introducing them to each other by profiling, somebody who's got an interesting story or two, and then.
Well, they absolutely love it.
Yeah.
They really do. I mean, there are a lot of people that read blogs and visit blogs and enjoy them, but they have no clue and really probably no desire to actually want to do one. And it's all very magical and amazing to them. I have grabbed a hold of little stories that I found here and there, and then created a specific blog post. One fellow does these kit car versions of Corvettes. And on his website, he had an enormous photo collection on there. I don't know, about 200 photos of different kinds of kit car Corvettes. And I just thought it was really cool. Wow, it took me over an hour to go through all these pictures, and they were all pretty neat. So I made a blog post about this very, very cool gallery. Well, this guy was thrilled. He was just beside himself. And, here he thought he was out there in the middle of nowhere, just putting stuff on a web page, and not really knowing if anybody was paying attention to it. And he was just so happy that his enterprise got featured at CorvetteReport.com, and then he told his friends, and then it got parked into a forum, and and if you can get stuff put into forums, I mean, truly organic, genuine comments from people about a blog post that you have. Man, that's totally free advertising, and the darn things last forever. Somebody drops a little comment like, "Oh, I found this really great slideshow. It's over here at CorvetteReport.com/da-da-da-da-da," and that thing just sits there, and then the people who are into that particular niche group, they if they go to that forum, they look at, "Oh, well, what's that?" And then boom, you've got a new visitor that probably wouldn't have found you beforehand. And of course, there's forums for everything. One of the things that I have to do, it's a little extra project, like I need another project. I call it blog seeding, and how that would work would be to go and whatever your arena of interest is to go out and find, well, what are the top forums in that particular area of interest, and just go identify them. And if you're writing, like for me, if I'm doing a story on, say, the 2012 new Corvette, to go to a Corvette forum where they're specifically talking about that car, and then just drop a comment into the forum. Oh, by the way, I just had a story published in Vet Magazine, or I just published a blog post that gives an in-depth report plus photos, blah, 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 blah. Check this out. And, it's a soft referral kind of a thing, and it's a model that can be applied to any particular subject matter.
Nice. Yeah, and one thing that I found working with some other businesses is that, occasionally you get those spikes in traffic, and it's definitely a good idea to find out where it came from.
Yeah. Because
those people are not only, it's nice if you can get onto their forums, and forums seem to do that.
The other thing that
to try and see if you can't get on there on a regular basis every time you have something similar, similar.
Well, there's nothing stopping any of us from visiting the forums that are connected to our topic, and look around because there's so many conversations going on in these forums. Sometimes it's kind of overwhelming to find stuff, but if you can find them and then tune into them, nobody's gonna rap you or say, "Hey, you're just out there spamming us, with your junk. It's got nothing to do with what we're talking about here." But if you find forums where they're actually talking about something that you happen to have been talking about, they appreciate it. They welcome it. And like I said, once you leave that comment on a forum with a URL link, it's there forever. It's permanent. Another thing that I noticed is that I have about a half a dozen or so car-related blogs that I like. I just like them. They're fun. And I go to them every day or so. And almost all blogs now have the opportunity for readers to leave a comment. And I noticed one day when I was about to leave a comment on a friend of mine's blog that there was a little box there. There's several little boxes with fields that you put in there. One of them is your name, and then there's a box for your comment. But then there was another box where there were some radio buttons, and you could click on them, and, like identify either your Facebook presence or your Twitter presence or your website URL. So I clicked on the button for the website URL, and I put in CorvetteReport.com, made my comment, hit submit. The next day I went back and I looked at my comment, and sure enough, there's my link. I implanted and embedded a link to my website onto my friend's car blog. And, in these blogs set up where people can leave comments, the comments always stay. So that's another thing that us bloggers can do to generate more traffic and interest in what we're doing is to identify the blogs that are in the same arena as us, and then visit them. And if it's appropriate, you got something to say, leave a comment. And in the comment, you're most likely going to be able to leave your own website's URL.
Speaking
one
of
thing to
comments and
right.
spam, I was wondering. I'm not, in the same league as you at all. I'm a writer, and that's basically what I'm focusing on is putting good content up. And I'm still trying to learn from my friend Jerem and Carrie and some other people about how to turn that into something more meaningful. But from the very beginning, I keep getting all of these spammed comments. Is that not an issue for you?
I think it goes with the territory. It really does. Now I know what they look like. At first, I would read them and go, "What's this guy talking about? This doesn't, And then you're tempted to want to write back and say, "Are you sure you're at the right place?" No, that stuff's just spam. And in WordPress, there's a section on the admin page where you can review your comments. There's some settings there where you can mark it as spam and then hit apply, and poof, they're gone. But unfortunately, it's an annoying little downside, dark side to the world of blogging in that it's because anybody can leave a comment. It is wide open for spamming, but that you can delete those things and not pay any attention to them.
Yeah, actually, you don't even have to worry about deleting them. There's software you can apply to your WordPress blog. It takes care of it for you automatically.
Really?
We do have spam bloggers, but we found that the spammers always seem to be ahead of the spam bloggers.
Yeah, automation has.
I put the spam, anti-spam on my both my blogs and some of my customers' blogs, and it really is pretty effective. I mean, where I was getting 60 spam things a month, now I get maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
Right.
Which is this a Kismet you're talking about, Kerry?
Yeah. Yes.
Something like that.
Yes. Yep. That's the one I typically use. Yep.
What's the name again?
A Kismet.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, typically it's one of the few plugins that comes ready-made with WordPress.org installation.
Cool.
I have another sort of comment / question, Scott. It sounds like from everything you've been telling us, apart from the fact that none of us that I'm aware of are blogging quite as frequently as you are, but beyond that, I'd be willing to step up to that. Hearing about your success, but beyond that, it sounds like there's a lot of effort that goes into the distribution of that blog post, and so you're doing a lot more. I mean, like you, I found that Twitter and LinkedIn and a couple other sources are terrific. If I tweet about a blog post, I mean, I can see results in sometimes as little as 2 or 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it depends on how many followers you have in your Twitter account, which is something I'd be interested to hear about from you. But you're also doing a lot of other things, clearly, to announce the blog. And is that sort of do you have that sort of organized in any way in terms of the process you go through to distribute the stuff? Is that something you could share?
It's just sort of a mental checklist, just like the checklist that I go through to actually create a blog post. I mean, I get an idea for something and I just start writing. It's a flow of consciousness. I just write it all out, and then I run spell check, and I go back and I read it to make sure the syntax is correct and does this make sense.
Yeah.
Then I'll go look for some graphics. Having an extensive background in computer graphics and commercial art, I just can't leave the pictures alone. So a lot of times, because it's fun for me, I go back and I modify the pictures and I make them a little more graphically interesting.
I do the same thing.
It's
very similar
nice,
process to you. So that sounds like that resonates very well with me, because that's kind of what I do. I find that sometimes I'll write something. A lot of times, the last thing I write is the thing I want to put up in the top. I switch things around a little bit. But I appreciate the sort of confirmation that that I end up going through a similar process that you do. I use Photoshop, and everything's got to be touched up somehow, even if it's only a tiny crop or something. but I'm actually more interested right now in the process of how you get eyeballs on this thing, how where you put all the links and how you distribute your the fact that you've got this new post out there.
Well, the Hootsuite tool allows me to very, very quickly and easily send out these hoots to my Facebook and my Twitter lists. So
Okay.
that's one tool that I use, and I don't just tweet these things once. Just because of the way my day goes, I usually end up putting a new post up usually early in the evening. So as soon as I launch the post, I go over to the Hootsuite tool and I broadcast it. But then what I'll do is I come up with another tagline within Hootsuite, and then I'll schedule another Hoot for maybe around 10 o'clock or 10:30, and then I'll schedule another one for the following day to my Twitter people. That way, this thing gets hooted out when I post it later in the evening and then the following day. And if it's something that's particularly relevant or timeless, like at the end of last year, I did a top 10 Corvette stories for the year, and I think I was Hootsuiting that thing for about 2 weeks, because it was a timely, New Year's kind of a thing, top 10 stuff and all that. And it just seemed appropriate to push that a little bit more. But that's kind of how I use the Hootsuite thing. And as far as planting those seeds in other forums, I think that's just a matter of identifying where they are and then just taking the time to go there and look for something. It's a little more tedious than using Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a very cool tool. It's free, and once it's set up, it is just fall off a log easy. It really is.
So would you say that you spend at least as much time, finding places to broadcast your tweets or your posts rather, as you do actually writing them?
No, the broadcasting of the posts can go relatively quickly, but I had to identify and find, where are these forums, and and then it's particularly the forums, they want you to sign up for them and create a login and a password and all that kind of stuff. But once I've identified them and my passwords are memorized by the machine, they're real easy to get into. It's just a matter of, okay, do I want to go, spend the next half hour?
Right.
It's going on 9 o'clock, and I'm tired.
No, believe me, I hear you that.
But it's a process. You can almost make a checklist.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, because I'm broadcasting out, but it's clear that you're doing much more than I have been doing to make people aware of what you're doing and. Are you using article marketing at all as a complement to the posting?
No, I'm aware of it, but it's just no. Well, it's just Karen and I here. So, okay. Well, who's going to do that?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, nobody to delegate it to, right?
No, I'm looking for a mini me.
Yeah.
Find out where I get one. Let me know.
I hear you. If you find out somewhere you can clone yourself, let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one last question, then I'll pass the mic to somebody else. But I heard you say you do a lot of tweeting about this, so you use Twitter. Do you have like one major account, and how many or do you have multiple accounts, and how many followers do you have?
We have, I think Karen told me a little over 1,000, around 1,000 followers in our Twitter account. Which is very good, but I keep going back to the fact that this is just really a numbers game, and when somebody gets an idea for something that they're looking for on the net, first thing they do is they go to Google and they use that search engine. So my objective with this thing was that how can I get on the first or second page, and I found that much to my delight and my surprise, that on certain topics within the Corvette community, because my pages have been getting visits and hits, that I'll enter in something into Google, like say Mako Shark Corvettes, because early in January I did a whole bunch of posts on that topic. When I put into Google Mako Shark Corvettes, I was a happy guy because several of our posts were up close to the top of the page, and we had managed to trump out some of the bigger forums. So there you go. It's just a numbers game. It really is.
I
agree.
The
other stuff is And the other stuff, the social media aspect of it, those are interesting tools to use, um, for the immediate need when you first broadcast these things. But then after that, it's all searchable, and you'll be amazed at what people can find from. So I just am delighted sometimes when I get, and I'll be looking for something online myself, and I find a post that is on the first page that I put up 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's a delight.
Yeah, I mean that's really investing in your enterprise.
Well, I like the point.
And that's what.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, and that's what we want to offer to the people who want to advertise with us. That unlike radio and TV spot ads or little ads in magazines that never get looked at, 2, 3, 4 months down the road, when you invest with us and you have us create a blog post about your enterprise, it's yours. You get to keep it. It's not going to go away. It won't expire. It won't end up in the pile of magazines out by the curb. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think this whole idea of the ads lasting forever is something I hadn't really given much thought to, but it's a very important differentiator for other media. It's good. It's an excellent point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Scott and Karen, this is Fred here in Pittsburgh. I have a couple of questions. First, really enjoying the information a great deal.
Thank you.
But is there any way to correlate monetization on blogs that maybe aren't as product rich as your Corvette site? Do you guys have any data on that you can share with us and that may be helpful?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, your site has a lot of products that are for sale on it, your prints and so on. If we had a blog that was not so product rich, do you guys have any way of correlating maybe visitors to monetization or posts to monetization? Anything in that area at all?
So if you're marketing a service or
right,
it's something that is not a commodity or product.
Well, I remember years ago I heard business consultant Tom Teeters was explaining one time. He said business is really very simple. It's about either making things and selling them or providing a service, and it's really about it. We have an idea for a web blog that we put together. We haven't launched it yet. It's just all about baby boomers, and we just wanted it to be fun because we've been to a bunch of boomer sites and really found them to be quite boring. So we've got this thing called Boomer's Memory Lane. It's up there, but we haven't had time to put anything into it. But I was kind of wondering the same thing with that. I mean, how do we monetize this? I mean, basically, it's you have to go out looking for products, affiliate stuff or whatever. But I think in that, unless you're offering products or some kind of a service, it's a bit of a stretch. I mean, we know a guy who has a news and information website that's just this colossal source for alternative news, and he sells advertising. I mean, he sells the traditional kind of, your banner ad up here, and he's got stuff all over the place. Now, this guy's got a national radio program, and he gets a tremendous amount of traffic through his site. I mean, in the hundreds of thousands of page views a day range. For that kind of a website, you're going to get the glow of that kind of traffic that you can use as a justification or this is why our rates are here. Because so many people are going to be here looking at our site. I mean, he's probably getting 100 times more visitors than I do. So we're offering something a little bit different rather than your banner ad here because we have so many people that come here. It's not easy. It really isn't.
Well, I mean, you have a very targeted audience too, and probably a highly passionate and highly motivated group of people that visit your site. I'm just thinking in general terms, if you had a more generic. I don't know if you guys track any of that information, like on Karen's site. Is there things that you can share there because it's different than the vet site, Scott, that may be of value here?
Well, on Karen's social media net blogger socialnetblogger.com website, that was sort of an outgrowth of a previous website that she built called 5-Star Site Makers. And for 5-Star Site Makers, what we were offering there was functional website blogs for small business entrepreneur people. Karen goes to lots and lots of local networking groups, and the number of people who have been downsized and outsourced and are reinventing themselves is just staggering. And she gets to meet them when she goes to these networking groups. And, you know, they're out there trying to reinvent themselves. They know, like, oh, gosh, I know I need a website, or maybe they have a website, but it's outdated. So, you know, what she was doing for quite some time was offering her skills and abilities to build you a modern, up-to-date website. So that was how we were monetizing that effort, by looking for project work. SocialNet Blogger is a little bit different. It's a forum for her to pass on and share information about the broader topic of blogging. Plus, then we put together this 4-week course, Biz Blogging 101, to just help people get over the hurdle of creating lots of blog posts. And I think it goes back to when we were in school, and particularly us older people who had to handwrite reports. I don't know if you remember that or not, but what a torturous deal that was. The teacher said, you have to do a report, and it was like, oh no, oh God, because you know what's going to happen. You'll get down to the end of the first page and you realize, or the second page, and you realize that, oh, I have to write this all over again because this doesn't make any sense, But so I think a lot of people end up having a real negative, unhappy experience writing reports, and the idea of writing a blog post is just too close to writing reports, and it's like, oh, I don't want to do that. Well, that's what Biz Blogging 101 is all about. We try to get people up to speed with just the process of creating blog posts. So that's how we're monetizing SocialNet Blogger, by offering our product for SocialNet Blogger is the courses.
Sure, okay. Well, that seems to be a pretty logical pathway for that also. And I like the idea of what you were doing with offering your services to other businesses to kind of give them a fresh look and, I guess, get them into the process of blogging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great.
I found reading around, just to give you a kind of gradation of where you're going to make money using a blog. Typically, your own product, whatever you've decided people are going to be most interested in, it's something that you can offer them. Your own product is going to be your number one money maker. Then after that, I haven't had anybody comment specifically on the editorial sort of incorporating people's advertisements into your blog post themselves. I haven't heard anybody comment on how much you charge for those, or versus regular advertisement. But then usually the next one is if you have somebody who is paying you just a monthly fee for having their banners up someplace in something of a more colorful graphic format. That's usually the next one that I hear of. And then after that, it's usually a gradation of using different things that, perhaps ads that are contextual, that are placed. We've seen some of them where they'll take certain keywords, and if you roll over them, you see an ad or something like that. Those usually come next. And then usually the Google AdWords are typically the least, pull the least amount of money in, but there's still some there. And that's what I've, from what I've read and from what others have told me, is typically how it works. I would imagine your contextual ones your editorial ones would be one of the higher, I'd say, money makers there.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I know.
It's an idea that we came up with, and we talked about it for months and gradually formatted this thing. And the best you can do is to make it as best as you can, and then burp it out there and see if this dog will hunt.
Yeah.
There you guys pretty much.
So what I like
everything
about
that's,
that is you've got
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'll just say, what I like about that is you've got that built-in audience, not only the people who visit your site, but you're talking about sending it out via Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, things like that, which I'd imagine will add a lot of value to that. So,
yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, Fred.
You were mentioning product, and I've got from doing this column for Vet Magazine over the last 14 years, I've got an enormous collection of Corvette art. And basically with the art print business, what it comes down to is that no matter what year Corvette you have, I have a print of your car. Now, it seems to be a seasonal kind of a thing. In other words, that we sell most of our prints for the holidays. I mean, after all, nobody needs a piece of artwork. But they make really nice gifts for people. And so consequently around the holiday season, we sell lots and lots of these prints to wives, girlfriends, secretaries, and a few guys that just like to buy stuff for themselves. But when we send out our product, I put together a very nice small 8-page catalog, and of course it's got information about all the prints as well as the websites. So that's more of a traditional advertising, marketing, collateral kind of approach, and it's actually something I learned when I worked at Matchbox Collectibles. When we did that direct mail Matchbox collectible products, you always included, lots of interesting collateral information, just to keep them in the flow of what it is that you're doing. So, that's another thing that we do, just to keep us out there. Don't forget us. Remember us. Stop by the website. It's a lot of fun. The other approach I do with my Corvette report is I just sort of heard in my head one day, if you make it fun, they'll come. Because that was my experience when I was going to I found a couple of these car blogs. They're just fun. And, so because they're fun, even though they have nothing to do specifically about Corvettes, because I have a broader interest in transportation, I keep going back to Hemmings Motor News' website or their blog site because it's fun. So I thought, I should make my website fun too, so that someone will want to keep coming back every couple of days. So, what else is this guy dished up? Because it's always fun.
There's nothing about the character at the top of your blog that says, you're not going to have a fun time here. So I don't know if anybody has visited the Corvette report, but you've got this guy up there, and I'm not looking at him right now, but he has sunglasses, and somebody says, you're going to have a good time here.
I don't know how many of you have ever seen the movie The Big Lebowski with Jeff Bridges from about 10 or 12 years ago. Well, when we first saw that movie, we're watching the movie, and all of a sudden Karen says, laughing, and she's going, "That's you. You're the dude. You're the dude." so now that's my nickname now. She calls me the dude. You're the dude. So I sort of came up with that little cartoon character that just sort of, is a caricature of the dude.
That's the tone, that's for sure.
That's the tone, yep. The dude abides. Keeps going.
Nice. And just the idea that you take something that you have a passion in, something that you really enjoy, makes it a lot easier to write blog posts, and then people of the same passion will definitely be drawn to you there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there are times, I forget who I was talking to sometime in the last month or so. They were saying to me, "How can you write about Corvettes on and on and on?" And I said, "Well, honestly, I have enough affection for the topic, where on days where I really don't feel all that excited about it, I have enough affection for the topic where that pulls me through."
These are clearly people. These are clearly people who have never driven a Corvette.
That's an interesting thing about Corvettes is that it's a visceral experience that if you're not into fast cars and you just take a ride in a Corvette and somebody really gives you a believer's ride, it'll probably scare the hell out of you. You won't like it. But when you're behind the wheel, it's a visceral experience that with a lot of sensory input, and that's what hooks people on Corvettes or any high performance car for that matter.
My daughter absolutely loves being a passenger in my Corvette, and I stomp on the gas pedal in second gear, and she just giggles. My wife on the other hand, puts up her hands and starts screaming. That I got to slow down. So it all depends on your audience.
Yes.
But
I think,
anybody who could say to you, anybody could say to you, how do you keep this up, week after week? I mean, I would guess that they've never actually driven one of these cars, so but it's only a guess.
I suppose that could be, but
I suspect there's a high correlation anyway, Scott.
Mm-hmm. I used to be a toy designer, and I started working for Tyco Toys not long after that movie Big came out with Tom Hanks. And when people found out, oh, you're working at Tyco, oh, like that movie Big, huh? I said, well, we do have a pretty good time in there, but it's still work. And after a while, it's just a job, But if you have enough affection for whatever your arena happens to be, it'll pull you through on those days when you just don't feel like doing it. Because those days will happen. You just don't feel like doing it. But if you have affection for it, it'll pull you through.
Yeah, and Corvettes is one thing, but I write a lot about market research. I mean, give me a break. Talk about having to pull yourself through sometimes,
And yet he's got an extensive blog on that topic.
Well, there's always historical aspects to any particular topic. I mean, I have seen plenty of presentations about Edward L. Bernays, the father of modern marketing, and you talk about an interesting story. There you go. And it's there are things even about something like marketing which can be really dry, statistical, kind of a snore of stuff. But there are other elements of it that could be quite interesting.
Now, I guess if I want to give away my age as a blogger, I can talk about how in market research we used to use punch cards to run our data on mainframe computers. That might actually be a pretty interesting, historical blog to do. Thank you for the idea.
Oh yeah, like punch cards. What's a punch card?
What the hell are those things? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember those days, and I remember this one very sort of sad story where this woman, graduate student, came in, and I don't know exactly how it happened, but she tripped, and she had her, box of cards in her hand, and the deck flew up in the air, and they just scattered all over the room, and she just went down to her knees and began to cry. I mean, she just broke out in tears, because that's like the worst nightmare for somebody, doing that kind of, and we, all the other students came around, and we all tried to, pick up the cards for him because we have no idea what order to put them in. But those are the kinds of things that people today have no appreciation for how much effort it took to do a research project back in the day.
And it's like dropping a heart in the middle of a transplant operation.
Yeah, sort of. Not quite as life threatening, but yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oops.
Yeah. Well, for her, it was more than oops. I mean, she literally fell to her knees and broke out in tears. I mean, she was just devastated.
Well, I've had something similar to that happen where I got so into writing something, and I was writing pages, and then the computer shuts off, and I didn't save anything.
Oh yeah, that's
save it. Oh
right.
Man,
right.
That's when you got to get up and walk away and go out for a walk.
Yeah, it's amazing how you really just can't really recreate that necessarily right at it. I'll just do it again. You can't. It's just like the thoughts are flowing, and the synapses are firing, and it's really hard to just go back and say, okay, I'll just do it again.
It is.
It doesn't work that way. No, I've had that experience too. Yeah, that's a bummer when that happens. Absolutely. So you learn from that. Hopefully you don't do it again, right?
Well, like Lebowski would say, it's a bummer, man.
Right.
Do you guys see any change in the direction of the way blogs are going here into the future? Anything on the horizon that may be added to this process? Any thoughts along that line? Any new technology that might be, on the horizon that may make part of this process, let's say, different than it is now?
gosh, I haven't really thought much about, where this will be in, 2 or 4 years. It's an interesting notion. Certainly something that somebody could write a story about. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because as comprehensive as it seems to be right now, I mean, you can put so much stuff into a blog post, opinion columns and slideshows and YouTube videos and leave a comment and on and on and on. And it's like, wow, where is this thing going to go? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, one thing that you said there is kind of key, is that they are getting to where you can easily add more content, more types of content.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are really enjoying that more. A blog that I just recently started publishing has a lot of pictures on it. And I use these pictures to tell a story, and I'm finding that people are much more drawn to the pictures. Let's get the wording in between and just hit the pictures, and I try to tell a story that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can add multimedia, you can add the videos and other things, then it makes it that much more engaging, and people really enjoy that.
That's one way that we discovered is if you're a little bit pressed for time to do a post, you can always go find a set of pictures or a YouTube video, scoop up the embed code, and then put the embed code onto the layout page. And at that point, all you really need then is maybe a short paragraph introduction, and then the YouTube video, and there's your post. And let the video do the talking for you. I mean, that's one way of putting up a post fairly quickly.
Bloggers are becoming, at least in some areas, the journalists of the future. And so, and the bloggers, because they can, they're very focused on certain topics, and they have access to the people, much more easily than somebody from a big organization or like a traditional news organization. So they're and bloggers are blurring the lines between, the old style journalism and future journalism. So, I think that bloggers, in the right areas of interest can really, they're rewriting the whole, they're recreating what we mean by media. And so to me, that's one thing that a blogger can think about. If you're really interested in a particular subject, and it's always been politics or something, but there's so much news going on and so much available that you could become, bloggers can really think of themselves as a journalist, and that their blog site as being, like a mini media outlet or a newspaper or a magazine or something. I think that
sure has become that. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Who'd have thought, huh?
Yep.
back when we all were thrilled just having what we now call a static website, that it would evolve into this. And actually, if you go into Wikipedia and you look up the history of blogging, it's amazing how humble it started back in the mid '90s. Karen asked me one time to write a story at the SocialNet Blogger about that, and I was rather surprised. I didn't know that it was just something somebody did in college, kind of on a whim. They wanted some kind of a HTML type format to be able to quickly come up with things and write it out, and then allow people to make comments, and it just went on from there. It's an interesting story.
Yeah, because the internet really started as what we would call today a blogging exchange between scientists.
Yeah.
That's where it all started, and they were emails, but basically they served the same function as a blog does today. So blogging was there at the creation of the whole internet.
I used to like to share newsy things, news-related stories with a group of friends. And I had several that kept saying to me, "You should turn this into a blog. You should be blogging." And yeah. But so yeah, my blogging kind of grew out of just a love of being able to pass on and share information to people. Like, oh, look at this or look at that, and did you see what got posted here on MSNBC about the blah blah blah? And that's kind of how my blogging experience, what my blogging experience grew from.
As you mentioned, I was going to say, as you mentioned too, if you've seen something interesting around the internet, it makes for a great, very short blog post.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, hey, I found this great article. This is what I think about it. Write out a paragraph or two right there, and then put a link to it, or put that video right there in your post. Yeah. Send people on, but it makes for a very easy, very quick, and usually very informative post.
That's one of the suggestions that Karen has in I forget what day it is for her. It is Blogging 101, was the different kinds of blog posts that you can write. And that is one of them, where you sort of make a very brief editorial comment about a news item or a video or whatever. You leave your comment, put links on there to the story, or embed the video, and there's your post. You're sharing information in a nice, direct, easy way.
Nice. Well, I've had several observations I'll just toss out here, and if there's anything to talk about there, then we certainly can. But a couple of things that came up that I didn't try and bring up at the time was that one thing, if you take your blog post and then you publish it around, say send it out by Twitter, to perhaps LinkedIn groups, Facebook, different ways like that, other forums and such, that's a great way for search engines to find your content, because sometimes it takes a while for a search engine to come back to your site if you're just relying on them and trying to, they do make it a point to visit sites on a regular basis. And if they notice that you've got new content up every day, then they'll typically come back every day. I don't know if you've looked at that, Scott, to see, how often do the search engines come here? But I'd imagine they visit daily now that they've seen that pattern.
Part of the StatPress function is it shows you how many spiders have crawled over your site every day.
Right.
And we're, it's, again, I think it's part of that numbers game aspect, that the more posts you have, the more attention you're getting, and the more attention you get, the more spider attention you get. And there are days when I'm shocked at how many spiders are going over the site.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you're just new and getting started out and you want the search engines to find you, then they do continuously crawl Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook as much as those sites will let them, and they'll dig and stumble upon and places like that. If you post anything there, then search engines are all over that. They'll follow that link and find your content and then index it much faster if you put it out there.
Yeah.
All right. One other thing, Karen mentioned MS Word, and there's at least for WordPress, there's a real problem trying to take something off of MS Word to make it look like you want it to if you copy it directly over into WordPress. And I don't know if you've had that problem or if Karen was suggesting that that's how she posts things, but what part does that play in there?
She installed a toolbar set, Tiny MC something or other, and there are two little icon tools on there where if you click on them, one of them is for specifically for Word, and I forget what the other one's for. But when you click on that little tool that's in your toolbar, a window pops up, and at that point you can just paste in your copy from your Word document, and it removes whatever it's not supposed to have. And then when you click, and then when you click, OK or Enter, whatever it is, then it's in the little window area where you're actually doing your layout, and that seems to take care of it.
Huh. Okay.
But that was something that was driving her nuts there in the beginning when she first started blogging, because she would write up something in Word, drop it in, and have to go back and reformat everything. But there is a tool to help you get around that.
That tool is called what?
I think it's Tiny MC.
Tiny MC.
Okay, Karen says it's called CK Editor.
CK Editor. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a plug-in for WordPress.
Great, because I've had some major issues with that. And if you just copy a Word document and paste it into WordPress, then it's a there's bad DNA there.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, it's like the unholy offspring of an anglerfish and a naked mole rat. The two just it just gets worse. So, anyways, I've had some major problems with that, and so when Karen mentioned typing something out in Word, I wanted to see if there was some way of not running into those issues. So
yeah, CK Editor seems to take care of that.
CK Editor, okay, excellent. All right, and one thing I wanted to point out as well is that comments. You're talking about going out to other blogs and commenting, and there's some link things going on there and such. But just so if you've got some other blogs that you frequent and you really enjoy, like you mentioned, Scott, one way to really get in with those people who are writing those blogs is to comment and comment regularly, because no matter how busy a blogger is, they seem to personally read their comments, even if they've got people working for them, even if they're very busy in other pursuits. Comments seem to filter through to get to the main person who's in charge, and I found it's a great way to start a relationship with that person.
I absolutely concur with that. I mentioned a little while ago about the subject of Mako Shark Corvettes, and that I had put a post on with a link to a photo gallery of these cars. Well, it turns out that the fellow who has this website is in California, and he makes his own fiberglass body parts and body kits for these cars. And he saw some of my concept art, and we're talking now about what we need to do for Steve to actually make my designs in fiberglass and then offer them to the Corvette market. So you just never know where this stuff's going to go. I mean, I had no idea that when I put that post up, that subject material would attract someone like that would, that forms a relationship with me. And basically what he's saying is that I love your designs and I can make this stuff. Well, I don't know how to make this stuff. I mean, I don't work in fiberglass. That's not what I do, but that's what he does. And he likes my designs. So, I don't know where.
Started talking, was he commented on your designs?
Yeah. And he bought a couple of prints, and we've had this long-running dialogue now, and it's kind of to the point where, Scott needs to start doing some drawings so we can, I have some drawings to send to him, and, he can look at them and make a determination of, how am I going to make this thing in fiberglass so that it will fit onto a contemporary Corvette. So I don't know where it's going to go, but it's kind of interesting, and wouldn't have happened without the blog.
Yeah, because this is another example. I was going to attend a conference where they're going to be talking about social marketing and blogging and all sorts of things. And the speakers had their own websites, and so a couple of the key ones that I wanted to get to know them, I went onto their blog. I just went back and I found a couple of posts. I made a few intelligent comments. He responded back, one of them that I was talking to, and next thing you know, when I hit this conference, I'm in the audience of a bunch of people here, and I raise my hand. I tell him my name. I talk about something that we had mentioned, and next thing you know, he's like, "Oh yeah," and then there was this connection there so we had conversed back and forth a bit, and so we were able to, basically went from there. But yeah, of a bunch of people in an audience, I was the guy who had commented on his post, said, "Hey, I'll be at this thing here, and I've got some ideas for you," and we had a great conversation right there. And we just started with putting on a couple of posts where he just made some good comments, and people really appreciate that.
What an extraordinary thing, huh? Karen, I know Karen mentioned the book that we had published, the Illustrated Corvette series, which pulls up 144 of the stories that I did for Vet Magazine. I got to a point with that project where I had enough stories, and I thought, maybe I should make this into a book. So I was out looking for a publisher, and I wasn't really getting too far. I submitted a couple of online proposals to some book publishers, and nothing was really going on. But one day I got an update through my LinkedIn group, and it turned out that one of the guys in my LinkedIn group that I only knew peripherally, not real well, but I just saw, oh yeah, I know who that guy is, and he knew who I am, so he was in my my LinkedIn group. It turned out that this guy was the new acquisitions editor at CarTech Books. And I thought, I read that, and I thought, CarTech, oh yeah, I submitted a proposal to them. I never heard from him. So I sent Scott Parkhurst an email, and because he knew me through LinkedIn, I told him in my email that, by the way, congratulations on your new position. For what it's worth, I submitted a book proposal, but I never heard from anyone. By the end of the day, we had a verbal agreement to do the book, because what it took was for someone that knew me to be willing to go through and root through the pile of book proposals, find it, read it, and then take it to his boss and say, I think we have a book here. And otherwise it would have just sat there in the pile, and somebody would have gotten around to it when they got around to it. But that's my LinkedIn success story. We haven't made a lot of money off this book, but as an editor friend of mine told me one time, he said, well, hey, look, at least you're published. It's and it's something that you'll have with you forever. It's like if you're in the corporate world and you ever become a vice president, you get that forever. Even after you're done working for the company, you can always, it's right there in your resume, former vice president of, wherever. And same thing with having a book published.
You wrote the book.
Yeah. So there it is. Good. And where it'll go, I don't know, but we'll see.
Excellent. I've got two last questions here,
sure.
But just wanted to make sure everybody else had a chance to ask anything of Scott or Karen. Anything left? Anybody?
Karen's still here.
If not, it's about time to end the call here. These things usually run about 2 hours long, and that's about where we're at here.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, one for you, Scott, and I've got a question for Karen. What is your dream Corvette?
Oh, my dream Corvette would be another 65 Corvette Coupe, another Stingray.
Yeah, another. This is one you've had before?
Yeah, I had one of those a long time ago. They're kind of like a fast truck, but they're a blast to drive. They really are.
Is that the split window, rear window one that you're talking about?
The split window was only in 1963, and then the split in the rear window went away. But it's that basic.
That's my favorite one right there.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful design. I never get tired of looking at it. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah. I didn't remember the year, but
it's truly a modern American classic car. It really is.
Yeah. One last question that I would like to pose. The Corvette thing is obviously, I have an affinity with you on that, but I also really like, classic British sports cars in particular, and I have a 1970 XKE convertible,
nice.
And it's just a wonderful car. So my question is, have you thought about duplicating your success with Corvettes with another sports car, or another I don't know, could be 150 F-150 trucks, whatever. Have you thought about that possibility?
I've thought about it, and
rejected it.
Like, geez, just what I need, another project. We're back to looking for a mini me,
Yeah. Well, you've inspired me on. Not that I need another thing to do, that's for sure. But at some point, maybe I'll pick up the baton, and I won't compete with you. I promise. But I might do something with something like with the Jaguars or some other. There's plenty of interesting cars out there, and plenty of enthusiasts.
Oh yeah.
So.
Just do it. It's just a model, and I was inspired by a handful of other Corvette blogs that I enjoy going to, and and I picked up little things here and there from what they were doing. But by the time I integrated into my website, it's got my own unique flavor to it, and it doesn't look anything at all like what they do. So
Yeah.
you know, you'll make it your own.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've done it. Yeah, I've done it a couple of times over, so I know that I can do it. But it's, as you say, taking on yet another project. You know, you don't want to do anything, you know, halfway. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I mean, I'm just glad. I am truly, sincerely happy and glad that Karen dragged me into this, because when you're first starting out and you're getting, you know, a dozen visitors, 24 visitors, you know, and you go to some of the bigger ones, you go, oh, I'll never get there. But I was very surprised at how quickly the search engines picked up on what I was doing, and when I put in, you know, particular searches. My stuff's coming up on the first or second page, which is, of course, what we all want. So,
Nice. Excellent. And last question I had was for Karen. She's got the teleclass coming up.
Let me get Karen back on the headset here. Everyone, this has been a delight, and I hope we can do it again sometime.
Thank you,
thanks
Scott.
very much for your time, Scott. Appreciate it.
You're all quite welcome, and here's Karen.
So that was the dude. I hope everybody enjoyed his expertise and his sense of humor.
Yeah, it's very nice. Very nice. Karen, you said you had a teleclass coming up in February, but is this going to be an ongoing thing, or if people say later on, listen to this and it's not happening this particular class, is this something you plan on doing on a regular basis and they should still contact you, or what are your plans there?
Oh, yes, most definitely. The first one is the first Monday of February 6th. It goes on for 4 weeks straight, and then I intend in March to start another one on the first Monday, which would be March 5th. I choose Monday because from my experience, a lot of us, small businesses go out and network, attend network meetings in the morning, in the evening, but Monday evening it seems that it's kind of light, so that I thought that my webinar on a Monday evening would be perfect timing. So that's what I plan on doing, teaching my clients with that particular program, the why, the how. Let's actually do it and practice it and get you into a structure with an editorial calendar, all that good stuff that you heard Scott talk about, that we can actually make it a proven process to get, whoever signs up going in the right direction. So thank you for asking about that. More details at socialnetblogger.com. There's a little video I have of an introduction to a free seminar that I offered just recently. It tells you a lot about it, and it's me live. And, of course, there's a landing page that I have that gives you all the details of the different classes. And these are just two of the pointers that if you do have your own blog, that we can help you with down the line to create your own landing page, to create your own video, all that good stuff.
Excellent.
You should put a link, if you can, in Skype here. So that would be probably the easiest way for people to get to those things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Toss it up on that group chat.
Okay. I'm not sure this is it, but I'll give it a try.
All right. Yeah, it's just where we were talking at the very beginning. That'll work just fine. And as well, I'll have this recording, make it available to everybody, and we'll have a link, of course, to their website and everything there as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Jerem.
All right. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you all. We'll go ahead and end the call now. But, thank you, Karen, and Scott as well, for your insights and your education. And we will definitely be hearing more from you, I hope.
Very good. It's my pleasure, Jerem, and I hope to participate more in your calls. It's been a lot of fun.
Excellent. All right. Thank you all. We'll talk.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.